Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to the channel. So as you can see by the thumbnail, I want to talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which was now the second time that I've seen it since I saw it at the cinema. And I've got some opinions about it, to be honest. So it was released on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K. And I gave it another watch through, and there are still issues with it. It's not amazing. I don't think it would be classed as the best film of Phase 4. I still felt Shang-Chi was just slightly more enjoyable. But let's get into it. So obviously I've got the Collector's Edition, which had the Steelbook, Doctor Strange on one side and Wanda on the other. There was a little film booklet that tells you a little bit about production, a little bit about the characters as well, and a couple of little postcards there. So, where do I begin? So, it's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is after Endgame. Everyone knows who he is. Christine Palmer is now getting married. He did obviously not get the girl. He's not a happy person, let's put it that way. And the film, it kind of does centre around his happiness. You know, what does it mean to be happy? It's a question that's, I believe Christine asks him at the beginning of the film, and he works on that throughout the entire film. By the end of it, he actually asks Wong, and I believe he actually makes a comment, as a sort of narratorial comment, in terms of how things have progressed and how that helps him or doesn't help him to feel happy. So let's start. It starts with, I cannot pronounce her name, Sohil Gomez, the America Chavez being chased across a in-between worlds, it looks like, with Defenders Doctor Strange, and they're looking for the Book of Ashanti to deal with this evil thing that is chasing her. She then gets thrown into Earth 616, which is our Doctor Strange, and things sort of escalate really from there. So he, as it says, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse, he goes through a couple of different multiverse and ends up having a whole, just want to say, adventure with America Chavez, where Wanda is actually after her because she wants America Chavez's power to be able to get back to a reality with her sons. So that does make her the villain of the film. And to its credit, I will say this is probably the closest we've seen to Scarlet Witch in the comics. They've hardly touched her abilities at all in the MCU up until now, and they kind of skim the surface a little bit, and it's a bit of a shame because she is one of the most interesting characters for me personally in Marvel. And I think they've kind of done her a bit of a disservice, that they've not actually given her much to do. So that was a bit of a shame. In terms of Doctor Strange, now, the very first film sets up an interesting conflict between him and Mordo, where Mordo's getting to the point where he's quite annoyed that there's too many people using magic around just to deal with day-to-day life. And Doctor Strange even starts the film kind of like that, you know, turning Christine's glass of water at her wedding into wine. Of course. And the problem with this film is it seems to be, for lack of a better term, filler for a bigger arc, which is a real shame, because at the heart of the Marvel films, from Phase 1 to Phase 3, the main parts of the film were character-driven stories, and how their arc changed from film to film. You had Steve Rogers, man out of time, Second World War veteran, in the first film, into the second film, sort of being brought into modern times, and sort of trying to sort of fit in there, and realising that his friend Bucky is still alive and a Russian asset. Going into the third film, it's an ensemble film where they talk about sort of essentially the political ramifications of the Avengers. And Steve Rogers grows in each one. You know, and you've got the Iron Man ones, which completely started the whole thing. Iron Man, very kind of self-centered, you know, someone who is rather arrogant, goes through the first one, and towards the end of the film he's become a more sort of grounded person. Second one, he's got to the point where his ego is floated out because he is Iron Man, and he's got kind of used to that, and it's inflated his ego to the point where he needs it to chop down a little bit. And then we have the third one where he's trying to atone for sort of the mistakes of the things that he's done, which funnily enough comes up again. And we have a similar sort of thing with Thor, and unfortunately with Doctor Strange too, you have something fantastic that's built up with Doctor Strange and a lot of his, for lack of a better term, colleagues in the first film. And none of it is ever touched upon in this, because they hardly spend any time in the 616 reality. So that's one of the problems I have with it. Another problem is, it's called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Multiverse. Many different versions of a universe. And we meet 3? And that in itself is such a shame. You know, you have a 2-hour film, and before this, there was Spider-Man No Way Home, which feels like more of a multiverse film than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. There isn't enough multiverse in the film with in its title. And again, it's another frustrating thing where it feels like it's just not good enough, to be honest. And it's a big shame, because I like the character of Doctor Strange. I absolutely adore Sam Raimi. And I think there are some fantastic moments in this film, especially some really good Sam Raimi isms when it comes to horror. You know, he is a bit of a horror master, and this film is more of a horror film than anything we've seen in the MCU so far. So it does feel like a missed opportunity in the fact that you had so much potential, and it feels a little bit wasted, unfortunately. But I have got it because, to be honest, I really wanted the behind-the-scenes thing. I wanted to see what Sam Raimi had to play with. I want to see what Sam Raimi was doing, what he had potential to do. And again, in typical Doctor Strange 2 fashion, there is not much to it. There is about 4 deleted scenes, of which one or two might be ones we've seen at the cinema, just with an added like few seconds. And it's a bit of a shame. It really is. I enjoy the film. It's okay. It's not amazing. It's a lot better than Thor: Love and Thunder. Not the best of Phase 4 at all, by any stretch of the imagination, but it's enjoyable. It's a watch. There are a lot of issues with it, but that's my thoughts. What did you guys think of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? I know it dropped a couple of weeks ago on Disney Plus. How have you felt Sam Raimi has handled his sort of step into the MCU? What did you think of it? You know, was it up to your expectations, or was it a bit of a disappointment? Let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.